He's a hip-hop legend, an all-time great lyricist, and an outspoken voice, celebrating 50 years of hip-hop.
Still singing Fight the Power.
Honoring his legendary career. This is a Sirius XM Townhall event with the legendary Chuck D. Here's your host, Karen Hunter.
Yes, welcome. I am so excited. We have been circling each other.
That's the story of my life. I was telling the Drink Champs and Nori and DJ. Yeah, I told EFN, we've been circling for 7 to 8 years. It doesn't mean I can't do it. I won't do it, but we circle. How long last time I was up here in the building, we circled. Then we circled.
I was
then we
like,
circled.
You on somebody else's? I was like, when you coming through? When you coming
through for the black people? That's usually the question.
Did I say that?
No. But it's like one of those things, and I'm the type of person that would walk to the Apollo and put in my time. So, I mean, you only could be in so many places, so many times. The world is connected with the gadgets that's attached to our hips and sometimes heads. So you're everywhere, but you could be everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Well, you're here today.
I'm here today,
honored,
so we're blessed by this moment.
Listen, we cannot celebrate 50 years of hip hop and not have you in conversation around this. So
you can, but I'm glad I have the honor bestowed upon me, because a lot of the former pioneering generation, that a lot of times people that don't know the facts, they'll say, oh yeah, you a pioneer. No, I'm an innovator, but the pioneers were before me. And most of my stories are in salutes and homage to the pioneers. And you know, like I was going to do this and sort of like a town hall with the elder Curtis Blow,
yes,
who's my senior, but also he's a vet. He's the godfather of hip hop, and he's a person that also bridges and transcends the before records into the area of hip hop, into the recording industry of rap music and hip hop that a lot of people just give the credit to who made the records and nothing else. So I'm the person that was able to bridge those stories into a golden era of the 80s into the early 90s, into the 90s, into the 21st century. So I'm kind of like respected as a person to have kept the documentation accurate and the archives as accurate as possible and tell the story like Griot's supposed to tell. You know, Griot's never dropped a piece of rice on the floor. They told stories. They was off the top. They were the Black Thoughts of our history.
I'm wearing past the baton, right? Because I feel like we have lost the ability to remember what came before. To the
Are you
point
talking about we as human beings or generations?
Generations, human beings, black folk in particular. It's like everybody feels like they're the first to have done something, but nobody gets anywhere without somebody doing it before. There's nothing new under the sun. So I love that about you. I've known that about you. And if y'all walk with Chuck D anywhere, he is somebody that you're very aware of yourself, but you're also very aware that you are part of a human experience, that you're part of a human community, and you touch people when you go out.
No better than nobody else. But, you know, I consider myself a student of what I do. I think who I am by now, you know, what I am not. And I ain't never afraid to say, I don't know. I ain't never afraid to say, I can't give you that answer. And like I was telling the cats, I said, listen, you know, you're owner to what you think, slave to what you say. So it's cool. And it's all right to make mistakes as human beings. And I think this is, and I was talking to one of my partners earlier in this building of a technology called the Bring the Noise app. And we were just talking about the dependency, and all of my conversations is trying to not only fight back, but figure out what's your dance style versus deep fakes, chat GPT, and artificial intelligence. Because when you say what we don't do anymore as human beings, it becomes because we've been lax on the conveniences that we do have. And the more that we rely on our phones and gadgets to be smart,
we get dumb.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dumb acidification metastasizes.
Oof.
That's a lot of letters in there.
But you made it work. Chuck D is here. I want to take us back. Let's go all the way back since we are
back to Noah's Ark, right?
Not quite.
Telling Noah that 3 won't work.
That Smiz, Rapper's Delight, a little bit. Let's remind some people.
Okay. I was in college when that record came out.
Okay, you remember the first time you heard? I remember the first time I heard this.
First time I heard this, I was rapping on Good Times at Adelphi University.
Stop.
And the DJ slipped in the words behind me, and I lip synced like it was Milli Vanilli.
Say what? So this is Nile Rodgers,
The
right?
original bass line, Chic. That was Chic, and you talk about Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards. Bernard Edwards, makes the bass line, and at that particular time, Chic, they called Chic a disco band, but they wasn't disco. They just happened to be the badass band in the disco era. And they made, Le Freak after they couldn't get in Studio 54.
Right.
You remember the time where, I knew as a dude, they probably let your pretty self in. But as a dude, I couldn't even get on 56th Street, 55th Street, or 53rd Street. They was just like, oh, yeah, you go somewhere else. We blocking off Studio 54. So that's how I remember it.
Well, the story is they were supposed to get in, and they got turned away. And they were like, oh, freak out. Dun, 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 and they couldn't come up.
And I bet you Donald Trump and Marlon Maples got in.
Well,
they was always on the page 6 in the New York Post. Am I naming a whole bunch of things that New Yorkers only know to be crap for a very long time? That's why I was so grateful for Dr. Yusef Salam to actually write that letter and take out that ad to say, all right, the shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah, for those who don't know, so way back in the day, I was sitting at the Daily News when it happened. There was a Central Park jogger rape. It was horrific. Lady was left for dead. And there were children, young people in the park. So they just grabbed some children. And they had not had a trial. They had not had a trial. They were 14, 15, 16 years old. And Donald J. Trump took out a full-page ad calling for their death. And he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times, the Daily News, the New York Post. And he spent more than $85,000 calling for their death with giant headlines. So Yusef Salam, upon his indictment, took out a full-page ad. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes. Karma.
And not to be, like side-eyed or facetious or anything. I don't know if I got the right words in the context, but it was just, smart thing to say at a particular time. Because most people, especially in New York, thought that Central Park started at one end of 58th, 59th Street and then have another end. Now it does.
Right.
Now it's called Soha, right? So
yeah.
Am I getting a little too New Yorky for the conversation?
No, but that's important because people who are in the tri-state area in New York who understand New York culture, it is not translating across the rest of the country. The fact that Donald Trump got elected, for people who live in New York, they're like,
"Are you kidding me? Did y'all fell for that 3-card money trick?"
Stop it! And they're still falling for it.
Usually people that come to New York back in the day would be amazed at what would happen on the corners and fall for the 3-card money trick. Now you see it, now you don't. Here, the shell is moving, baby. Yeah, here's the marble under the clam. Now you see it, now you don't. Which one you got? And a whole bunch of people like looking, and meanwhile somebody going picking each pocket as the person who picks the clam doesn't even win.
Never win because there's
that was 45.
That was 45. All right. Smith, play that Rapper's Delight again. One more time. Yes, let's get to the so you're at Adelphi.
And you got Wonder Mike starts out with a hip hop, the hip, the hop, hippie. So he's the first MC heard on a recording as we know it as rap on hip hop. Now we've heard rap, but it wasn't called rap back then. But I always give the first rap recording, I got to give it to Pigmeat Markham.
Here Comes the Judge.
Here Comes the Judge. As a matter of fact, Pigmeat Markham on that record.
Hold on, you got me sitting up right now.
Well, check it out. It's on Chess Records, the great label from Chicago, right? That also had electrified blues, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters. Starts in 1947, 48 with two brothers from Poland, Lyndon and Phil Chess. But in 1968, they had moved to another level, putting out soul records, and Pigmeat Markham from Harlem was a comedian, opened up all the shows. He does Here Comes the Judge because rapping was just like this, talking in a rhythm. And he does Here Come the Judge in 1968, and it's got the beat played by Morris Jennings or Sam Lay on the drums. Gene Barge takes him in the studio, and you starts like boom, boom, tat, boom, boom. Y'all can look it up. Here Comes the Judge. But do you know in the middle of it, you hear a voice, and it's like, I'll take 2 orders of 2 beers, please. A woman comes in the middle of it. You know who that woman is? Minnie Riperton.
No.
So Minnie Riperton is on the first, to me, I call the first rap recording.
Hold on.
Because Minnie Riperton recorded in Chicago for Chess Records
Yes,
on the
she
Rotary
did.
Connection. She was the lead vocalist on Rotary Connection.
Why do you know? So first of all, what you are witnessing, anybody who calls themselves an artist or a musician, if you do not have the history to go with your mystery,
Yeah.
then you should sit down, have several seats, because you're not helping the culture. Because this is the knowledge that is missing, right? You just tied some things together for me that I didn't even know I needed to know. So thank you for that.
It's important for artists to know art and the history of art, because when you know the history of art, art is short for artificial. It's not real life, but it's a facsimile of real life. So it's a construct that, that kind of reflects. It's different now because of technology and gadgets, and that's a whole nother conversation. But it's important to know the history of art so it doesn't like shock and amaze you. But when we as a society don't fill in the blanks of curiosities, and we have people kind of use their own judgment and taste on things, you're bound to have a bunch of, chaos and disorder all over the place, and rhetoric and all that. So it's important for people to know the things that they say that they love. You could be like, I don't dig that, I don't love that, and you don't have to know anything about it. But if you do say that you dig it, you love it, and all that, it behooves to help you out.
All right, where does Pygmy Markham, when you said, I was like, my daddy had me up on Pygmy Markham.
Yeah. He probably didn't want you to listen to the records,
it's
like
not,
Red
it's not
Fox and all that.
No, he had me up on a Red Fox. That was that N-word's crazy.
Wanda Page.
I had
all before you
yes.
get to Richard Pryor.
Yes. Where does Gil Scott-Heron fit in this? Is 50 years of hip hop, but it goes back. Where's Gil Scott-Heron?
Gil Scott-Heron is on that mountain of greats, the Mount, Rushmore, Rapmore, because he is able to be not only just a great elocutioner of words, great writer, wrote books, the Nigger Factory and things like that. But, he's a full artist that actually breathed society and spit it out in what he thought was a great interpretation. So when he gets a little bit of major distribution in the 70s, coming up out of Flying Dutchman records into Clive Davis then Clive Davis starts Arista in the mid 1970s and actually puts out Gil Scott-Heron, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, and, records. Gil Scott-Heron tells a black story in a black time where we relied on records and music and recordings to give us the straight dope, as they say, as opposed to say, we didn't see ourselves on TV.
Right.
If anybody says it's a different world, virtual audience, back in the day, if you want to look and see how much black folks was part of society, go to YouTube. Yes, I said YouTube, because these tools are out there to use as tools and not just as toys, although they could be enjoyable. You could get lost in them. Go to YouTube and look up commercials in the 1970s in the United States, and you be like, well, where the black people at? Well, we came through a lifetime, we didn't see ourselves anywhere, so we had to always go on, how did we hear ourselves? Because at least we were allowed the audio. But today, people listen with their eyes. And that's
what you call them? What you call them?
Screen agers.
Screen agers.
You listen with their eyes. From 10 years old, 5 years old to 80, they listen with their eyes, which is a way that you could get duped, especially in the day of AI and deep fakes. And we're going into a 4 to 5 year period that it will be hard for an old head to recognize anything, but a new head to believe anything. You know what I'm saying? So, back then, we knew that what was said to us, word was bond. So whether it was the Isley Brothers saying fight the power, whether it was somebody, Smokey singing a song, Stephanie Mills,
Marvin
whatever,
Gaye.
Marvin Gaye, you took those words to be word. And when they wanted to go into the extra word, like the Last Poets, Watts Prophets, Gil Scott-Heron, they doubled the verses and the hooks with words, and they spoke it. And spoken word was big, man, for a long time. Spoken word is our heirloom, it's our background. And also, let's in the city of New York, let's not make light of the folk and the beat poets. For the Allen Ginsbergs,
Oh, you saying
Peter,
something.
Paul, and Mary, and all. The beat poets, and put together by a lot of different, labels like Vanguard. I think that's the Solomon Brothers, Jack Holzman from Elektra, I mean, they put out folk records that spoke truth to power.
So when we talk about 50 years of hip hop,
Yeah, there's listen, there's 50 years of hip hop back to 1973, August 11th, and big up to the Hip Hop
so what
Alliance.
is the significance of that date before we move forward?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna say big up to the Hip Hop Alliance and our chairman KRS-One from the Bronx.
Boogie Down.
Historian, Boogie Down to the T, and they ain't no joke, and then you got Curtis Blow, our elder, MC Light Treasurer, but it's really a formation of these names, bringing a collective movement of people and being accurate to the story. So there's a lot of things happening if you want to pinpoint a story of August 11th. 1973, and we tell that story in a 4-part documentary that we put together. Big up to managing partner and the producer of the film, Laurie Bula, also from the Bronx, did an excellent job on telling the backstory, because a lot of times people see things and they say, well, we don't want to tell much of the backstory because we don't want to bore people. But we're not really being inviting to people who don't care about us anyway, so it's going to be there, right? So it's a 4-part on PBS, and the importance of that August 11th, 1973, KRS once says so clearly, Blastmaster says, he said that was a back-to-school event for Cindy Campbell and her brother Kool Herc to DJ and have some place to go in that building at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue and be able to make something out of nothing in the area that was left for dead. And from out of that, the spark rose. And also, we can't be further amiss outside of that what it involved with that culture. The master of records, Africa Bambaataa. Later on, the manipulator, inventor of different manipulation of records, Grandmaster Flash.
Oh,
yeah, Grandmaster Flash. You got to name the DJs first.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And the DJs, and then also the Jamaican DJs from Brooklyn. And Brooklyn has a whole nother culture that comes straight from the toasters of Jamaica, and then they come up with Grandmaster Flowers and Maboya and DJ Plummer, because Brooklyn is a whole nother planet.
Kool Herc is Jamaican as well, right?
Yes, but what moved Kool Herc out of Brooklyn into the Bronx, coming from Jamaica, he probably, when you study black migration is like, well, we had hell from where we had to come from to try to get to a better place. So whether you're studying the blues, electrified blues from people trying to get up out of what? Jim Crow. Jim Crow had a lot to do with our movement, history, and culture. My grandfather and his brother had to get up out of North Carolina in the late 1930s because they had an argument with some white dude and rolled him in a ditch. So they hightailed it out of there when they got the knock on the door in Rockingham, North Carolina, like, are we looking for so-and-so? By that time, my grandfather and my uncle was in Philadelphia and Detroit. So Jim Crow and the conditions always moved black people north, no different than the conditions of the islands when they started to open up. So in many places, the Bronx opened up to Puerto Rican movement from the island of Puerto Rico. And then Brooklyn opened up from the island of Jamaica, and then the Caribbean, all of a sudden. Why? Because we need people to do menial tasks, menial jobs. Yeah, we got a place for them to stay, because coincidentally, as white America spreads to the suburbs, the cities is just left for hanging, but we need workforce in these companies in the cities. So we need, people who maybe are not as privileged as white folks in the suburbs to come work in these factories in the city. And they need a place to stay. Well, the New York City transit system means that you can get to work on time for a nickel or a dime, later on a quarter. And ain't no excuse for you to work in this factory 8 to 9 hours a day for whatever we gonna pay you. And I know it had to be low because, Karen, the first job I had in this city in 1977, remember it like yesterday, I was getting $2.25 an hour, $2.35 an hour.
Flipping burgers?
No, I never mess with people's food. Never. I never don't mess with people's food, and don't cut nobody's head. I'll be all right. I was shipping and receiving. I worked under my dad for a year, and then I worked the next year in 78 in Long Island City.
So take us back again, August 11th, 1973. You're just turning 13.
Yeah, and so therefore I wasn't amazed at hip hop. Well, I wasn't amazed at hip hop because I'm a big sports fan. So I'm not going to be amazed at it because I'm 13 and it's just being born. So
Right.
here's the thing coming out of the city. I was fascinated for the technical style and just somebody that's able to do something with their time and something out of nothing. But I was a sports fanatic.
All right, so you are trying to play for the Knicks,
I'm
the
trying
Yankees. Like,
to
what is 13-year-old Mr.
draw
Rittenhour
all
doing?
the time, play
Graphic
sports.
artist.
Yeah, and I knew I was going to be great at at drawing, not so good at sports. I wanted to play second base or play baseball. Sucked. Basketball, I hustled, but sucked. You know, you got to know
How do you
your
know
calling.
when you suck? Because today no one thinks that they suck at anything.
Well,
Everyone thinks they're great.
That is a true fallacy because at the end of the day, you could give yourself your own interview on your phone and look at yourself and maybe get a little audience too.
Yes.
Back in the day, it's like, dog, you got to find something else to do. And the people that would let you know were brutal and let you know. So you had to go to your other skill set areas.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to be a thug because thugs were their own little circle that you had to seriously qualify to be a thug. Whether it's Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Harlem especially, you had to qualify to get in those circles. And today you can fake it till you make it, but that didn't come from, easier thing in time. It came from the illusion of being a screenager where you can be all you can be, but just keep it to yourself and be that. Back in the day, they said, be all you could be, you better join the army.
Facts. Chuck D, in case you don't know that voice, and it's legendary. Getting back to Lil Carlton at 13, wanting to be a baseball
broadcaster too, a sportscaster. That's where the voice.
Okay.
Well, the voice comes from my dad, who actually was in the Marines. So when my dad was like, hollering, trust me, if he told you do something and had to do, and he had to tell you twice, you didn't want to hear that, and then you wouldn't even get a verbal. You wouldn't even get a verbal whatever. You get one of those. Like it was steam would come out of his nostrils. But the voice comes out of that. So when I was growing up and we would hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the radio when he was alive, I was like, well, he does sound like daddy. But having that, I guess that's inherent in the DNA because my brother sounds the same too. And we hear each other, we talk to each other. He sound like me, I sound like him, but we sound like daddy. I wanted to become a sportscaster. I love sports so much. I like what Marv Albert was doing in New York. And I said, I like this play-by-play. I like my teams, and I could do that because definitely ain't going to play.
What's the soundtrack? What's playing?
In my mind?
On Saturday morning while y'all are cleaning the house, because I'm imagining that was something everyone did, right? Y'all.
Superstition. My mom would have Superstition playing on a record player, but then all of a sudden you doing chores and you better not touch that record. And she played the same old record. I mean, the record's going back, the automatic, the arm goes back on the record, repeat. And you're like, well, you better not touch that record. So we didn't even touch records, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I tried to get away from because if that's playing on the record player, I don't want to be in the house hearing, Odetta, Roberta Flack, Stevie Wonder, so you get your musical training from a Motown Stax Atlantic household. Then the radio every once in a while, the Super 16 WWRL, but also not also knowing that WABC was a great teaching because it taught you all the other musics that was music.
Right.
And the melting pot of New York City was reflected in WABC.
So you getting a little Journey. Who's playing back then?
Who's playing back then? Steely Dan, Ricky Don't Lose That Number. But also you're getting the Spinners. You're getting a little bit of James Brown.
Mighty Love.
You're getting, and you're getting Janis Joplin. You're getting all these, you're getting what Elvis and Dion and stuff like that, but Petula Clark. But you're also getting, Al Green, is thrown up in there. Temptations. You're getting all that Motown Stax Atlanta. You're getting Otis Redding. So we were educated as black folks highly in the New York area because we knew everything about white culture, but we knew ourselves. And that's why as a student, I always thought I had an advantage as a black kid. I know everything about y'all, but y'all don't know anything about me. So when I went to a white high school for architectural program, I was just like, I was a phenom because I was a badass in the arts and skillful drawing and design and stuff like that. But I knew everything. And they were just like, the white kids got education off of all the black kids that came out of Roosevelt. See, all the black kids, we had like the tech programs we didn't have in Roosevelt, architecture, mechanical, and electrical engineering. And so we had to pass a test from Roosevelt to go to this white school that had the programs. And it was something they figured that, okay, we want to balance out the school systems. So I took and passed the architectural test. So I left Roosevelt to go to this school near Westbury, which was about 4 or 5 miles away. And it was culture shock to everybody because it wasn't like 2 or 3 black kids in a white school. It was like 100 of us. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all came in like Voltron.
We came in like, woo, like Voltron, right? But what happened was it created like a little cultural storm after a while where the white kids knew more about black culture than all the other white high schools, who would like kind of like they get their black education off of Good Times and Huggy Bear and on Starsky and Hutch,
right?
And we're like, we this thick without who we are. And the white kids at Clark was like they knew more about black culture. We already as black kids knew everything about. We knew come on. I wanted to get my room as neat as the Brady Bunch boys.
Yeah, that was pretty tight.
Right? So I'm just saying that was the biggest difference back then. We had advantages as black students because we knew about black life, which wasn't easy, but we had to know ourselves. But we also knew about, the whole white life in the United States of America. They didn't know anything about us. So is that a disadvantage or advantage? It was an advantage for me.
So you went from there to Adelphi, which is where you met Mr. Drayton, William.
Years later, I first went to Adelphi. I first met Hank in '79, who visited. Well, Hank was from Roosevelt, Hank Shockley, and then later on Bill Stepney, who was a classmate in the early '80s, and then Andre Brown, Dr. Dre, Harry Allen.
Wait, the Dre went to Adelphi?
The Dr. Dre from our Dr. Dre.
Our Dr. Dre.
The Yo MTV
one,
Raps.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, we were all in the same class. Dr. Andre Strobert was our musical professor of black music, history, and art and culture. He's a profound professor out of Brooklyn who's a musician, worked with people like Mandrill and play in groups like that.
Wow.
And he would teach us the nuances and I can't say that word. Etymology.
Etymology. Yeah,
etymology of.
And I struggle with some words, so that's
why we all need help. Thanks. I was drowning in the water for that one. But Andre Strobert and me, Bill, Dre, Harry in the same classroom, and then me going to Spectrum City, and Spectrum with Hank Shockley, Keith Shockley, Eric Vietnam Sadler. We all had a scene that created on Long Island that actually embraced the culture of technology, black music, DJing, and rap music and hip hop. We were fans of everything. So
where did it come from? So you got Motown in the house, you got Kool Herc somewhere you didn't even know about. You got a little, you got a little this, a little that. You're at Adelphi. When did Chuck D emerge? Because what were they calling you?
I was Chucky D as in Spectrum. I was Spectrum's first MC. Matter of fact, Spectrum's first DJ under Hank was Professor Griff. He was DJ Griff. So
who's Chuck? Who's Chuck?
Chuck was a person who's a fan of the arts and was the artist. I came into Spectrum wanting to be a person that just wanted to brand us and come up with great logos, great flyers. And I had a little bit of kick-ass envy at how the rock scene would, just like the rock scene would be on Long Island, and they have all these venues, and then every rock band would have a logo. Kiss comes up out of that. Anthrax comes up out of that. And the rock bands at that particular time in the 80s, they would play the places full of thousands of people. They didn't even want to make records. Twisted Sister comes up out of that. I felt that we as DJs could get some of that and build a world like that. So Chuck was a very integral part to trying to get hip hop and rap music and DJing culture to get respected in the places that they tried to talk junk on. They tried to talk junk about Harlem. They tried to talk junk about the Bronx and Brooklyn. They totally ignored. Queens became closest to our scene because Queens is Long Island. When I was growing up, Queens was Long Island. I would go uptown to, 151st Street, aunts, cousins and all that. I mean, one time I was running off the stoop and my oldest cousin was like, "Where you think you at? Long Island? I'm from Queens. You from Long Island? That's Long Island." You're like, you get that shock and all, but that whole understanding of Queens coming closer to the Long Island culture is how we built our, I won't say empire, but we built our understanding. And Chuck comes up out of that. Team player. I like sports, so it's all right if I ain't hitting the home run. I'm running and crossing the baseline. You know what I'm saying? So we good. So Chuck comes up out of that. I was the best. Like if Hank was supposed to be, he'd be Berry Gordy, right? My job was to be Smokey Robinson. You know what I'm saying? It's like I work with the artists, I arrange, I maybe name my brand, come up with logos and stuff like. I'm a behind the scenes person. I relished being behind the scenes, but when duty calls, that's when the Public Enemy thing started. Where we wanted to be the Motown of hip hop, and we felt that we had the terrain, we had the heads, we had the experience. The only thing we didn't have, we had money.
Let's talk about that when we come back. Because you got money now. Chuck D is here.
I'm paying money now.
I'm paying money, and you got money, sir. Sir, you have money.
So it's a river.
it's a river of money.
It's a river. I'm trying to drink from the well.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about where we are right now, because there's a lot of money. It feels like sports. There's a lot of money. $100 million contracts here, $200 million contracts. You got artists that are making the money, but y'all paved the way. Where are we today? Chuck D is here, the 50th anniversary of hip hop. We're talking about it. When we come back, we'll be here.
Self-destruction. Yes, we urge to merge. We live for the love of our people.
There's a person.
Getting a point to our brothers and sisters who don't know the time.
So we know the ride.
Step in your heads, you know our job to build and collect ourselves with intellect. To evolve to self-respect. Cause we got to keep ourselves in check.
Yes, welcome back. We are here with the great Chuck D celebrating 50 years of hip hop. And
years.
You talk about being a Smokey Robinson, Berry Gordy, Motown.
Tried to be.
Well, you named Busta Rhymes. You've done these things. Talk about that verse in particular. What did it require? There was a moment to come together. Something was happening in the country, not just in New York. And you, Melly, everybody. It's like if you look at Heavy D, MC Light, of course, KRS-One. I mean, so how did this first of all come about? And then this verse, was it one take?
No, for me, I felt like a fraud because I didn't show up on time to the video. I was doing somewhere else. That's why I said you can't be everywhere at the same time doing everything at once. So I think we did our video a section later. So every time I hear the song, I think about, damn, I missed the video spot where everybody was at. Flavor was there that day, right? Coincidentally, believe it or not. But when I think about this song, I'm thinking about it was a culmination of a buildup of a lot of things that we were thinking about and talking about. The message was such a seminal moment that it scared a lot of people away from the deal that was going down because people just thought it was a Bronx thing. When, broken glass everywhere, people piss on the state, the side like they just don't care, right? Well, and out of that, you had what? You had message songs, divine sounds that nobody talks about. Remember what people do for money, man? What people do, right?
For money.
How is that song not in currency to this? And then big up the divine sounds, do it, die, bed, style, guys. And also Run DMC gets to start out. It's like that. It's the way it is, right?
Wait, hold on. Before you just throw that out, what was your influence on Run DMC? You had a hand in that.
I was part of the collective that helped give them their first interviews.
That's what I just wanted to just say. There's a thread here, but go ahead, continue.
Because I wanted to be behind the scenes, and we wanted to push that Run, DMC, Jam Master Jay thing into the stratosphere. It's new. It's out of Queens. A young guy that throws these parties with Curtis Blow, Russell Simmons, and this young guy from Long Island, Rick Rubin, white dude. They are coming on something like "Wow, It's Yours" by Tila Rock, who's the brother of Special K from the Treacherous Three. We like promoting this music, so you would think, no, it's not adolescent. It's something that it's brilliant. It is science and scholars with a funky beat coming at you that just won't stop and is just as big as rock. You know what I'm saying? So out of that, it was a culmination at that particular time. There was things happening in black schools, in black towns, because all of a sudden in the 1980s, we had our heavy R&B. And heavy R&B was Reagan and Bush, right? So Reagan and Bush comes in the 1980s to make America great again with this actor, right? Then all of a sudden, what was in pockets in the New York City area in the late 70s, all of a sudden was around the country. Guns in every community out of nowhere, on top of the drugs. Now we're going to introduce the drug game so the younger heads don't pay attention to the older heads at all, because money is going to be that dividing factor and ain't nobody got any. So the drugs and the gun, and it's a different type of drug too. It ain't no weed. Matter of fact, it ain't cocaine, but it's figured out the way to figure down into crack and super addiction and put some super guns on top of it. So it had gotten to the point by the mid 80s that we had to have some sort of like gun dialogue to let people know that these guns are out here and somebody's bringing them in. And we're going to have drug dialogue in rap and hip hop music. And in 1987, we were befell by our peers, Boogie Down Production. It was KRS and DJ Scott LaRock. And I'm on tour. We're in Rockford, Illinois, and boom, boom, I get a knock on the door, and it's the great Eric B., who also is like a unofficial union leader for years. And Eric B. will always bring the first piece of news to me. To this day, he said, "Chuck, man, they killed Scott." And I was like, "What?" And they killed Scott LaRock in the Bronx. And this had spilled over. It was a culmination of, people dying in high schools and these guns in high schools, and black communities were yelling out, but it wasn't even heard. The first, oh yeah, this is your mind on drugs will come out, and these anti-drug campaigns, cool, but at the same time, nobody's telling
the drugs in.
Nobody's telling that it's tied to the COINTELPRO, the Contra, and all the people So my first songs I'm coming out with, I'm talking about Oliver North, right? Not really caring whether a kid knows it or not, but I'm saying I'm gonna put it out there like that. I'm not gonna keep no secret at all because I'm louder than a bomb, right? But it had built to a point, and KRS One and Ann Carley from Jive Records, who became the record company they had just signed to, and Nelson George, Bill Stephanie, Hank Shockley, all convened to get together with artists such as Daddy-O from Stetson Sonic, my bro, who also records with his Old Dad Truth label, with our Spit Slam record label, has done like 5 albums in the last 2 years. But he's like this true griot. We would go around the country and recruit movements in hip hop and rap music. And he's part of that record too, helping to come together as an artist, arranger, and person that gets everybody to the table. And we decided to say, listen, man, MC Light, Heavy D, may he rest in beats, people wanted to show that rap music could go against the grain to make change. Instead of being the thing that causes the scenario. They blame Run DMC for gang violence at a concert in Long Beach in 1986, where it just happened to convene Crips and Bloods who had gotten a different type of level with the guns and the drugs. Before, the Crips and the Bloods in the Southern California region were just like community protectors. Turf, this is our turf versus your turf, boom, boom, boom. But you pour guns, drugs into the young heads and incarcerate the old heads, then you have no connection to rules and all that, then you get another element. It's almost like putting the animal on steroids. And so you had these situations convene. There was a fracas, and they end up blaming it on rap. And that was my turning point in 86, where I agreed to say, I think when we come together with something called Public Enemy, the media is going to have to deal with us telling them the truth about these things for the first time ever. And that was the breakthrough of Public Enemy, is that our press conferences and our interviews became as big as people's concerts.
Yes. I remember one of the first stories I did outside of sports, because I came in the
Yes,
Daily
ma'am.
News as a sports writer. They sent me to a barbershop where they were specializing in putting designs in hair.
Yeah.
And one of them was the Public Enemy sign. And that was the picture that we used
Yes,
on
ma'am.
that story.
Yes, ma'am. I
And
remember that. Thank you.
yeah, that's
Also,
crazy.
you put it at the same time. You put in the one where when George Harrison was taking a slap at rap being computerized rot, and I had a little bit of I didn't know it would be in the Daily News, but the clapback came, and a big up to David Hinckley.
David Hinckley, yes.
One of your people. I said, yeah, I guess if it came, and I'm a big fan of George Harrison, but he came with that coming at rap. So if you talk about rap, then I'm gonna come at you. So I had that Chuck snide remark and said, well, if it was Ringo, I said if it was John or Paul, I'd have felt bad. But hey,
George Harrison.
Yeah. But I dig George Harrison's beat. I'm a big Beatles fanatic, but I'm a bigger rap head.
Yes. So that self-destruction was powerful. Fast forward, it's 2023.
And Daddy O is putting together, stop self-destruction. So he's taking it to the next level right now, and it is time, and taking it to different levels, because you can't put one song is going to change the world, but the effort of an album project, a project that goes into truth to power, into communities, because of my alliance with the Hip Hop Alliance, which ties all movements and organizations together. And to me, my opinion is with the Hip Hop Alliance, hip hop and rap music's first union is that it's in partnership with SAG-AFTRA. Not only does it figure out how you get health care for participating in $1 billion industry, but also who do you go to? Who are you? What do you go to? How is this tied in? If you're a part of a family, what's your legacy? Well, where did grandpa's royalties go? That type of thing.
Ron Isley, probably.
Right.
I'm joking. Right, that's a joke.
And then being able to super connect organizations and movements to a cohesive thing where real people do real things. Listen, we're artists. It's all right for artists, to be Salvador Dali, which is sometimes we got to license the ill.
Yes.
Or be crazy as a mom. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I license the ill inside the confines of art. Once you come out of that box, just what happened to that dude, Scott Adams, that did the Dilbert.
Mm-hmm.
He has a license to ill as an illustrator in his illustrations of his cartoons. The minute he goes out of that confines and start running his mouth, now you in another boxing ring.
Right.
You went from boxing to mixed martial arts. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You went to MMA and you got your head knocked off. Can't start screaming, because once you come into the interview circle or running your mouth outside of your art form, we have license to ill as arts. I think Kanye West is Salvador Dali and Salvador Dali canvas constraints.
Right. Keep it on vinyl.
Keep it on vinyl. Right. Exactly,
So-
Karen Hunter. That's why you are who you are.
No, I am, because
Keep it to the
so many
paper,
people
keep
came-
it to the page, keep it to the mic,
Yes,
keep it
yes.
to the stage. Once you start coming in here, talking to the people, you got to figure out, what's my governor here?
So what's your governor, Chuck D?
Owner to what I think, slave to what I say.
Okay.
So my governor, my way out is I don't know what you're talking about. I can't
I
answer
love
that.
it. I love it. And it's crafty lesson, y'all. This is masterclass right now. Chuck D is teaching. Let me ask you, and where are we right now? So, because I was talking about that Public Enemy symbol, which you created. You
Yeah.
created that.
Mm-hmm.
That is you. That is you.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we right now? Because we were headed for self-destruction. It happened. And at least there were artists willing to stand up and talk about it and not just chase the commerce, right?
Right.
Today, I don't know what it looks like, and I feel like maybe it's age, but I don't think it's age, because greatness stands the test of time. Good is gonna be good. I can listen to Motown today and it feels the same. You talked about Minnie Riperton. You put on a Minnie Riperton today, it feels like it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy, same thing. You put on, yes, the N-word and all of that, we're in a different place. But you put on Robin Harris, you put on, you go back, George Carlin still stands the test of time. Good is good, right? I don't know what art is today in terms of rap and hip hop. I don't even know what hip hop is. I feel like it's a commercial endeavor that has been foisted upon us. I don't see people as students of the game, students of the craft, as many as there should be. And yes, I'm sure there's some people can call Kendrick and J. Cole or whatever. But as you are listening, as the dean of
And
this,
watching. Because today people will
You're
listen with
watching
their
right
eyes.
there, screenagers.
Big difference.
As you are watching today, what most disturbs you about where we are, and are you hopeful that coming behind there's somebody that will have the commitment that you have?
I think the biggest thing that always disturbed me was the absence of curators doing their damn job. I think the biggest problem that ever happened started in this city when radio stations were taken over by others, and first thing they would tell you is get rid of the jocks talking to the people, and they say more music, less talk. Well, what the does that mean? More music, less talk. It means that you can't tell me anything other than you selling sandwiches and giving me the weather. If you strip that away from the interpretation of what the music is and where it comes from, then all of a sudden you lose sight of the people. Everybody got art in them, but you can't get art out of you unless somebody brings it up out of you. Another thing that the images or the illusion that the gadgets give you is that there's more people doing it. With less curators, now you got, 1 trillion people doing what they consider art. Now, what you don't have is you don't have the amount of curators to handle all those people coming through. In sports, you do. Because the coach will tell you we're going to take 15 players. There's 30 people going out. Mathematics says that 15 will be doing something else. You can stay with the team, but you'll be carrying Gatorade. Now, you going to go home and you stockpile and come back with an AK and blast the coach? This is a possibility and an illusion of the 21st century, and this is why it's a danger, because people are setting the seeds in their head. But what you have is, in sports, you have definitive boundaries and obstacles that you got to clear to get up in the elite, and you don't have that in art. You got, just because I did it, they should take it as being that. And it's taste, but who taught you that? And nobody taught me. I taught myself. I'm a self-made man. Well, who interrupted you? So even there's a way to teach, but I don't think the teaching in the millennium is up to speed at the learning rate of what the young head can pick up. And then how young is young anyway? In hip hop, 50 years is what? 10 generations. Every generation is 5 years apart. I could get deeper into that, but I don't have to. That's 10 generations in there.
Is this a 5% not
No,
math?
it ain't no numerology, no 5% of math in there. It's just what it is. It's just real common sense. You got people who were there in 73, they didn't get what was happening in 79. Those in 79, 84, here comes running them. I don't know how I'm going to keep it to Treacherous 3. People with PE 5 years later, I'm naughty by nature. Like 5 years from now, Jay-Z, Scarface. So you have, if you want to get to the accuracy of 5 generations, understand that constraint, that construct of time is divided by technological advances too, which is a whole nother conversation.
How about, we talk commerce, how much thumb on the scale brought in the Jay-Z's, the Money Ain't a Thing, the Courvoisier passing, and the complete and total utter lack of community. It started in giving away the music, because what I wanted to do and what we wanted to do before we became Public Enemy, we felt that an all hip hop station, we wanted to do all hip hop radio in this city. If we've got an AM station to be in this city, we felt that we could have transformed not only the city in art form, but we would transform the world coming out of New York, and made it known that they would have to see where it came from a community control standpoint. We didn't do that. KISS did its thing. BLS was like, well, we don't want to jeopardize our audience, so we'll give weekend times to Cool DJ Red Alert and Chuck Chilla. We'll never have them talk. And Mr. Magic, who started the movement of hip-hop radio, will give them the corner on the weekends. But we don't want it to kind of cannibalize our formats. What this did was set up corporations to ready themselves up and form Hot 97 in this city, who immediately went in and power brokered, people like Diddy, power brokered, maybe Wu-Tang Clan from another angle, and became like, look, we're white owned. We ain't got to be apologetic to anybody. We're just going to be who we are and just love the music. Money. And then all of a sudden, the transmitter is powerful, and there's a certain legitimacy to being played every day in regular rotation
to the suburbs, even into the city. It says this is hip hop. It's not black, white, or whatever. It's hip hop. It's about green. Well, damn, you getting played at 2:00. I mean, Public Enemy records would be played like in the corner of a midnight at a weekend or whatever. And that was the biggest change because it allowed in this city corporations to get the green light to take. You ain't got to you ain't got to give back if you find it laying there on the curb.
Who's responsible?
It's not a who's responsible. We could be responsible for not being able to hold on to the tiger in the tank. So it could be a negligence that also led into that, because when I was speaking as a 30-year-old about how we need to at least curate this, and we couldn't join inside corporations, just like the tech industry. I'm involved with tech. I'm involved with white folk and stuff like that too. But the core of this, I'm not in the business of being harmful to black people. I'm not in the business of making black folk look bad. I'm not in that business. But that business is
profitable.
Billions.
Yes.
The N-word is a billion-dollar industry without saying it.
You better, we're going to say it. We're going to talk about it. Where are we 50 years? You proud as one of the deans, as one of the sons of hip hop? Are you proud of where hip hop is? And are you optimistic about where it might be? What is your
I'm
vision?
always proud of where hip hop is because it's taken me to 116 countries out of 222 around the world. People are like, oh man, they got hip hop over there. Well, hello, they brought me there and paid me to go to that country.
Wildest place that people wouldn't imagine Chuck D and Public Enemy going.
Maybe during the Yugoslavian War, or Public Enemy and Ice-T. Tupac was supposed to be on that tour. They stopped the war for one day between Serbs and Croats. They stopped the war for one day so they could have peace, and everybody came to the concert. By the next day, they went to war again. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy. Or
being able to be in Berlin, Germany, and having people on the other side of the wall mad that they can't come to the concerts because they get shot at the wall. Being in Accra, Ghana, and having a meeting with the then president, first black president I met, Lieutenant Jerry Rawlins, and he salutes us and gets in his fighter jet and flies off into the Ghanaian sky. Like, yo, how am I going to be impressed about anybody after you see that? That was like, yo, after that, I was like, yo, nobody could big ball me ever. Dude, after a meeting, salutes us, shakes everybody's hand, puts on a helmet, gets in his own fighter jet, fires it up with flames coming out, and disappears in the African sky. Yo, really? That's Public Enemy, yo.
All right, so let me say thank you, Chuck D.
Thank you.
All right.
Is that canned?
No, it's a whole
added?
Audience of people back there
Really?
applauding you.
Thousands.
Yes.
Takes a nation.
Yes, it
of
does.
Millions back there.
Yes, 50 years of hip hop. This man, everything. Chuck D.
Yeah.
I love you. Thank you for
I love
being
you
here.
too, Karen.